Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Real Estate Pros Podcast. I'm Mike Stansbury. Today, special guest north of the border, Alex Powell. How are you, Alex?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be on here.
Man, we're excited to have you. But first, we got to pay the bills. Investor Fuel, the sponsor of the Real Estate Pros Podcast. At Investor Fuel, we help real estate investors, service providers, and real estate entrepreneurs 2 to 5x their businesses to allow them to build the businesses they've always wanted and to allow them to live the lives they've always dreamed of. Alex Powell, I like this question to go off first. Let me ask you, what got you started in this wonderful world of real estate? What was your origin story? What were you doing maybe before you got in? And you know, what brought you to this wonderful, this crazy and fun, sometimes infuriating, profitable industry?
Yeah, good question. So I started I was just getting in, like, end of high school, getting into college. And a cousin-in-law of mine had just bought a rental property. And I was I had an old beater car. He was an auto mechanic, and he let me fix my car in his shop whenever I needed to. And as a kind of a payback, I was like, listen, if you need some weekend labor, I'll come help you paint some walls. So I did. And while I was there, he's like, you should read this book, Robert Kiyosaki, and check this out. I'll make this much cash flow after this. And I was like, this is like mind blowing. So my background in education is engineering, mechanical engineering. But all through engineering school, I was reading anything I could about financial freedom, creating money that works for me while I was sleeping. So I became kind of obsessed with this whole thing. And that's kind of how I built my network in university. I still have a lot of buddies who I deal with now who have kind of started on that trajectory as well. So that's what got me hooked on this idea that, how to scale. Because if you trade your time for dollars, you make $40 an hour for an hour, 80 for 2 hours. It's only going to get you so far because you only have so much time in a day. So the idea of going exponential was super cool and super attractive. And so, that's brought us to where we are now. And now I've actually left my engineering job.
Wait a minute, but you paid all that money for a degree in engineering.
I know. Who would have thought?
What kind of stuff are you talking about here? That's not cool.
Yeah, well, I can design a diesel engine, or I can show you the thermodynamic cycle of a gas engine, but I can't what good is that nowadays, right? So
it has its place, right? But what's interesting about your story is, you're trying to, again, you're trading time for money, but you're doing it in a way where you're actually bartering so you can get your car worked on. And then you get introduced to Robert Kiyosaki. So many of us, I don't think there's a real estate investor that hasn't read that book because it's so instrumental in unlocking things in your brain. And it obviously unlocked a couple things with you. Yep. So from that book, kind of tell us what was your first deal? How did the origin of the first deal happen for you? We know what happened to your friend. You watched him do it, and you're like, well, if he can do it, I can do it.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors, working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
Yeah, no, good question. So I remember I was this poor agent. I ran him through the gauntlet, but when I was actually ready, I had paid off my student debt, like hyper quickly paid it off, and I was like, I gotta stop renting. I gotta start buying something that I can then rent out. And so I think I went and saw like 150 properties. Like it's ridiculous, the poor guy. But finally stumbled on one in the Hamilton Mountain. Bought the place for 186,000. It had an unfinished basement, small, tiny little 2-bedroom property, and I spent my evenings and weekends kind of figuring out how the plumbing worked. I added a bathroom in the basement. I had another bedroom with like a rec room. And then I rented out the upstairs rooms, and I was living in the basement, and I was making $600 a month living in my own house. And I was like, this is incredible. This is like crazy. So I jumped over to the next one where I officially did like my first duplex conversion, and that was amazing too. And then I got into my first flip, worked my ass off all summer on this flip, and me and a partner made $256 after all was said and done. Yeah. So,
But the lessons.
But that was the university, so my tuition came back. Trust me, I paid hard for that one. But after that flip, the second flip that I did, and taking all the lessons from the first one, that second flip was enough that it exceeded my full year's salary at the engineering job that I was working. And so it was like, okay, I got to get closer to the face of real estate somehow. And at that point, I had 2 mortgages, and yes, they were being covered, but I wanted to make sure I had some consistency in my income. So I ended up getting my realtor's license, and I joined a high-performing real estate investing team, and eventually then branched off on my own with my wife, Kaylee. And yeah, so now we've scaled our own portfolio. We have investor clients and the whole gambit.
Wow. And tell me about the timeline. Like when did all this start, and now where are we in 2025? What was the timeline?
Yeah, so I'm thinking I bought my first place, I want to say maybe 13 years ago. And so, married or engaged, I guess 7 years ago, married 6 years now, coming in September. And so we've scaled up from that first property that I bought. Obviously Kaylee's come in, and we've now done a lot of stuff together, and she's been wonderful in terms of just a life partner and a business partner too. But we're at like 220 doors now, which is pretty cool, and we've spread out all across Canada. So we own properties in Alberta, Edmonton, Alberta, for people that are familiar. It's like the Texas of Canada in terms of our oil sands and things like that. The majority of our portfolio is here in Southern Ontario, and then we also bought and own property in New Brunswick, which is on the East Coast. And yeah, we've dabbled actually in buying in the U.S. as well. We were buying in Columbus, Ohio, did a few flips out there, which is a lot of fun, actually. I really enjoyed it. And I think that's the next phase for us, actually, is like, not sure if you're familiar with Canadian real estate prices, especially in Toronto. Toronto's one of the highest priced locations in the whole world, actually. I think next to Vancouver, which is also, another city in Canada. Our real estate here is ridiculous. So what I can buy in Columbus, Ohio for 150,000, on the Hamilton Mountains, 800,000. So the numbers don't really make sense. So it's really hard actually for like new investors to get into. It's hard for home buyers. I know that the affordability crisis in the U.S. and some states is bad. Like, no first time home buyers jumping into New York City right off the bat and buying a detached house. But still, with Canada having like substantially less in terms of like their metropolitan areas where the businesses are centered, it makes it very challenging because those high priced real estate are centered around like 8 major cities, whereas in the U.S. every state has a major city. So it's a big difference.
So yeah, so it looks like you guys, because of the affordability, maybe transition to buying more in the U.S. What are some of the other differences, because you bought in the U.S. and Canada, besides obviously pricing and the where they're densely located? How acquisitioning properties in Canada loans. What are the big differences between the U.S. and Canada when it comes to the execution of a deal?
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency. It's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
Good question. So when we're buying properties here, we don't use title companies like they do in the US. We use lawyers. So a transactional lawyer will take care of our stuff. Some areas, I'm speaking precisely in Ontario, we have something called land transfer tax. Now, states have similar things. Like when I was buying in Ohio, I think my tax to purchase was like $300. In Ontario, and I'll get more specific when it comes to Toronto, we have a land transfer tax that operates on a percentage basis. So if you buy a $500,000 property, your land transfer tax on that is like $12,000 or something like that, maybe slightly less. Toronto has double land transfer tax. So if you're buying a $500,000 property, now your tax just to purchase the place is probably in the $20,000 range. And so that's a huge difference, and it's a cost that sometimes is just like, it's totally a money grab. It's just the way that the city kind of keeps perpetuating this like real estate cycle and keeping it expensive, but it is just something you got to get used to. So we've now started to buy out in Alberta where there's no land transfer tax. So it doesn't apply across the country, but it would apply, for example, in Ontario. If people are looking to buy in Ontario, make sure you know there is a land transfer tax and it sucks. But the other component is, of course, the landlord type of rules. That's a super important one, and that's actually why moving into the U.S. is so attractive. And now I pray for reform here in Ontario because investors are leaving in droves because the landlord-tenant rules are so skewed towards the tenants. But we have similar backlogs to what you'd hear about in like California, where it's like you're not getting a hearing date for 5-6 months. You know, it's very pro-tenant. So that's been a challenge to navigate here in Ontario. But once again, you know, as a part of our diversification play, we moved a bunch of our business out to Edmonton, Alberta, where they are very fair. You know, it's not even becoming pro-landlord; it's just being fair. So that's part of our journey in terms of like diversifying within the realm of real estate. Because to put in perspective, I actually have a mentor of mine who lives out in Pensacola, Florida. Amazing dude, Bob Preston. And he mentioned that if you're looking to do business, you have to do business in a place that you can execute your business plan. And it seems like such an obvious kind of tidbit of information, but it's like, why would you do business in a place where you can't actually effectively execute a business plan? And in multifamily real estate, for example, when you're buying a residential apartment complex and you have to bring rents up and everything is rent controlled, like you can't do that. You can't do renovations properly because you can't justify the cost unless you're going into major, like, you're infusing a ton of capital, in which case your return on investment goes down and then people look for better returns elsewhere. So it all weighs out at the end. But one thing that we're actively doing here in Ontario still, like we have a property management company, we still have a big chunk of our portfolio here, but we do a lot of flips here. So that's a big source of our income, big source of our work. So we have 4 flips on the go right now. 2 of them actually will be wrapping up very quickly, and we're just kicking off the other 2. So that's a ton of fun. I love that side of the business. It speaks to me.
Yes, I love flipping as well. Flipping, that's what we do here in our town in Memphis, and it scratches the creative itch, but it's also very fun when you can do some big deals. Now, you mentioned Bob. Do you have any other for our audience and kind of for you getting the information and education in real estate? Do you have any coaches, mentors, or networking groups that you've been a part of that have kind of helped you in navigating the world of real estate?
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
Yeah, actually, so when I first started, I got into fortune builders. That was a little while back. And so I got my feet wet with some of their, like, their repair analyzers and stuff like that. They came into Canada for a brief stint, and I kind of subscribed, and then they kind of fizzled out of Canada. I guess maybe too much red tape. But I got a lot out of that. And I think that regardless of where you are, like, I'm a huge advocate for, like, the masterminds like you guys are advocating for. Like, I think that whatever the case may be, it's all what you put into it. So you can pay $20 to fortune builders, and you can sit there and be like, "Oh, it's a waste of money and it's a ripoff, and the whole thing's a scam." Truth is, it's not a scam because there are tidbits of information, all these things that one nugget can make it 20 grand, and it's hard to believe that. It's hard to acknowledge that, but I can actually twist it in a little bit of a different way. I'm sure a lot of people, or a lot of your audience, have read a lot of these like real estate oriented books, and you notice that the first like two chapters, like the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, like the Keller series, like
Gary Keller,
Gary Keller, the Millionaire Real Estate Investor, sorry, the blue book. The first like chapter is all about mindset, and you look at all these other books, it's all about wrapping your brain around this idea. And I find even myself when I got into it, I was like, screw this crap. I just want to get to the nuts and bolts. Like, show me exactly what I need to do to get there. And nowadays, when I'm reflecting, I'm like, all of that is at the beginning, like all of it. And so if you have a decent mindset towards growth, and it's so hard to do because you don't know it until you know it, and then you don't know what you don't know. So it's like, how do you get around that? But I think that, that coming from gratitude, like having a growth-oriented mindset, those kind of things, and being open to receiving certain bits of information, that's where it's like, that's where you 10x, So that's just my two cents.
I couldn't agree more. So I paid in my real estate career probably $300,000 or $400,000 in masterminds, personal coaches, and I've always thought, and it never fails. Like, man, this is a lot of money. And then what happens is that I just get that one, I usually get multiple things, but this one thing that I didn't wrap my head around, I understand it now because I saw it in action. I saw somebody else do it, and I was like, oh, if that guy can do it, I can do it. And then I do it, and then I do $100,000 wholesale that I never would have done because my mind wasn't ready for it.
100%.
And I didn't, I wasn't ready to receive it. But it's one of those things is when you do commit to something, you end up going, okay, I'm going to extract whatever I can out of this so I can apply it in this area of my life, in business or my family or relational, because I'm putting money down, so I better pay attention. So yeah, you nailed it. So it is one of those things where people have probably read Robert Kiyosaki's book and they're like, yeah, not for me. I don't think that'll work. And they're right. It won't, because they won't work it. They won't work the principles. And if you don't work the principles, you're not going to get the result. So it's interesting too. So you also manage your own property, and you manage property for others there in Canada as well.
Yeah, we have a full service property management company. So we deal with renovations already for our flips. So we have all the resources. I don't think that at this point, there's anything I haven't dealt with when it comes to house. Like, I've dealt with the termites, the cockroaches, the crackheads, the fires, the water damage, the everything. So, I mean, there's legit nothing we haven't come across. So.
Yeah, you sound like, that's hilarious. Crackheads in Canada. We got them in Memphis, and so I had to deal with them. So that's so funny. So I think every real estate business, every property management business especially, but they need to nail construction. If you don't nail construction, if you don't nail your SOPs on construction, especially when you're flipping, you can get in a world of hurt. But if you do nail it, if you take the time to really curate that, then you'll never not win, because there's always deals out there that you can take advantage of and add value, and then put them on the market. And that's kind of what you articulated earlier, because of rent controls and Canada's kind of grip on being very nice to tenants and kind of thinking the landlord's really out to screw everybody, you're able to win in that realm while I guess they figure all that stuff out.
It's interesting too. Like one important point about the real estate industry at its whole is it's so beautifully vertically integrated. I'm sure there's other industries that are similar, but I find real estate in itself is so easily like kind of like stacked together. For example, I have a real estate license, so I can then go help a client purchase a property, and then I can pass them to our real estate property management team that can help them with leasing, any sort of maintenance, and if they got to get the unit up to snuff, we can help them with construction. So we can deal with that. That's vertically integrated, and that same partner can burr that property out, pull out a huge chunk, and decide I don't want to do that again, but I'll lend it to you. So then we can deploy that money through our other aspects. So it all stacks so beautifully together, where it's like and that's why real estate's also unique, is that your competition is actually a client, is actually a vendor. It's all this stuff. So that's why I love it. Like we have buddies and stuff like that in our industry, like we golf with them or whatever, that like we're always like, oh, I just bought this, or we try to one up each other, but at the same time we're always helping each other too, which is just
Right.
an amazing thing about the industry itself. So
Yeah, I call it co-opetition. Like I want people to
that's a
win.
good word.
So
I like that.
obviously I want to win. I want to win. I want to beat the guy. But again, at the end of the day, I don't want to beat. I don't want to pulverize the people where they don't have business. I like to win, but I also like to see others win too.
Yep.
For instance, just recently I wholesaled a house to a guy and made a really good profit on it, and I thought he was going to flip it. Well, he had an end buyer, and he wholesaled it to that guy. He made more money than I did, so it was kind of a daisy chain. And I've never done, I haven't, that hadn't happened before. But I was so happy for him because he knew the end game, and he knew how to make. He had a buyer perfect for that house, and so that's an example of like, oh, that's awesome. I love it. But most people would be like, you know what? I don't want people to win. I want to take it all for me. And
Yep.
that's not what real estate's about. Real estate's about creating wealth, and there's a difference between creating wealth and hoarding it.
Hmm.
And if people can wrap their head around that, and sometimes that takes a little bit of work on your mind, then you can win here. And we want people to win here.
It's so funny you mentioned that. So we have on our MLS system, when we're listing a property, people can go on the back end through it's called the land registry office, and they can see what a property had previously sold for. In the U.S., it's very common, and here in Canada, it's a little bit more complicated, and especially if it's sold off market, like it's hard to get that data because you can't just find it. But anyway, whenever a property does sell, it's plastered on this like geo warehouse is what we call it, so you can see what the last person bought it for. So when we're buying these off market deals, we're typically buying them at a pretty steep discount. And what I find is like, I'll give you an example. I buy a place for 300,000, I put in 25K, and I'm listing it on the market at 499. I'll have agents look it up and be like, well, you just bought it like 4 months ago, and it's like, no way, like that's not worth it. It's like, but all the comps support it, and it ends up selling. And so what we've done is like, if you prepay your land transfer tax, it's a little bit of a hack for any Canadians that might be listening. If you
Come on,
prepay it
bring it.
before closing, and you put like the transitional cost is actually $2, but you pay the full amount that you would have to. But in that geo warehouse shows up that the purchase is $2. Nobody ever questions it. So little things like that, to your point, where it's like, if you want to, I don't care, for example, ever what a wholesaler makes. If a wholesaler makes $500,000 and I've hit my target of like, I'm hoping to make 40K on this flip, all the power to him. In fact, I'm excited for him, and I hope he buys me a beer because he made a great profit. But like, I have no qualms with what people make, and so many people like that's how they measure their success, is to like keep other people stifled. And I'm of the opinion like raise up everybody, and we all win.
Yeah, it is, and you see it you see it in text messages on deals. Well, you guys only had the property for 4 months, and you paid
Yes.
$100,000 for it. You really expect to get that? And then you just leave. You just ghost them,
Yeah.
and you wait, and then it goes pending, and they say, "Yep," and then wait till it goes pending, and you say, "Yeah, we just went pending on this just for fun."
Yeah.
And then I love to talk to young people too about this because young people, they that it's easy to fix in young people, but in old people, I mean, when I say old people and people that have been around a bit, when you hear it, you're like, there's no change in them. They're cooked.
Yeah.
it's baked into them. But young people, you can have an effect on them because they're more malleable. If you can show them, hey, this is how what creating is, and this is what this is, then they'll get it. Um, well, Alex, we got some time here. I'd love to hear about a creative deal that you've done recently. Maybe talk to us about a flip, or maybe again, this is kind of a choose your own adventure. What's a creative, fun, profitable flip, or maybe even the nightmare one? You can
Yeah,
choose
yeah.
your own
I
adventure.
I got one. Actually, we made the news for it. So we got there was a thing like a news report in the city of Hamilton, and actually, if anybody ever wants not to do like a self plug here, but if you on YouTube, if you search Pal Property Solutions, you'll see that one of the thumbnails has this news anchor sitting on the front. Anyway, that's the one. We took that snippet and we did a whole kind of video on it. We we saw this thing on the news, and we actually recognized the street and the house because obviously we wouldn't disclose on the house, but they called it the worst hoarder house in all of Hamilton. And so we like raced to the house. We dropped a card off in the door, and that afternoon we get a call because the guy's panicking because his house is on the news. People are reaching out to him, and I was like, "So what do you want?" And he's like, "Dude, I want 150,000 for the place, and if you can find my passport, I would be so grateful." I was like, "Okay, I can't guarantee the passport, but we'll look." So anyway, we bought this place, and I have no idea how a property ever could get to this condition. Like in the series of events that happen, like a leak turns into like rotting, turns into sagging, whatever, like those things happen. But this was like I've never seen. To sum it up, we ended up taking out 150 kilos of human feces
Oh,
out of this property. And so we hired a special kind of demo crew, and these guys are used to these kind of like I remember the day because it was like I had the building inspector, I had the local bylaw officer, and they were so familiar with the property. I was like, guys, I have no way to get a designer in there to get permit drawings done. You need to give me some grace. I need like 3 to 5 days of just uninterrupted. Don't get me in shit. Just let me do my things. And both of them looked at each other like, "You got it, man. Take care of it." And so like we went in there and blitzed the place, and no great place to put a bin, so we're kind of half hanging off the sidewalk trying to get the crap out of there. And it was like I've never seen before. And this crew that we had hired, I had bought them a pizza like a lunch one of the days just to like show some gratitude. And these guys, man, were like eating their pizza, shoveling with the other hand. They like didn't care. But anyway, it was funny. So there's a video of me when like the majority of the stuff's out of the main floor anyway, and it was just heinous, like you wouldn't believe. So of course, down to the studs. Um, it was like mice that had been fried in like the electrical, so like, I'm surprised the place didn't go up in flames. We had the guy who used to live there had a like an old broomstick, and at the end of it, he taped a kitchen knife. And he said that raccoons would come in through the attic, and he'd be on his bed, like jousting with them, trying to push them back. Like I'm not making any of this up. It was absolutely ridiculous, the whole thing. So anyway, we bought the place. We got the whole place demo, but it's like full rewire gut, new HVAC. Everything's new except for like we even had to put like one of those ozone machines to like extract the smell out of the stud walls. It was that bad.
oh no.
And so we had one neighbor on one side who was just an absolute beauty. She was so helpful and so grateful. And then we had a neighbor on the other side that made our life miserable the entire step, like every step of the way, which was absolutely ridiculous. Um, so so anyway, long story short, we got the whole place done up, beautiful. We got permits and everything. We had to get permits at the end of it because there was just so much work to be done. Everything passed, obviously, without a hitch, and we ended up selling it. And I think so. Funny story about the selling too. We were in the delivery room, and my wife was giving birth to our second born child, and like literally contractions started, and then that's what because the due date kept delaying. I'm like, this due date's going to fall exactly on our offer presentation date. And this is when the real estate market was just on fire out here. So lo and behold, we're in the delivery room, and I'm like fielding calls, and like I'm like, oh my god! So we ended up selling it multiple offers for like 675 or something like that, and it was like a 300K win of some sort. So it was really cool. But yeah,
I love it.
yeah, that was
I
the
love it.
dirtiest one I've done for sure.
That is dirty. That is dirty. Alex Powell, man, thank you for being on the Real Estate Pros podcast. I think that's a great story to end it on. Alex, if people wanted to get in touch with you, Where could they do that at? Tell us where you're at on the internet.
Yeah, if you guys want to check out www.palcapitalgroup.com, that's one of our platforms. Right now, we're actually going through a rebrand. It was palpropertysolutions.com, but I'm sure if you search Alex Pal in Ontario, I would come up just about everywhere. But I did want to also express, Michael, like, thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure getting to know you. And actually, like, I love that you're in Memphis because my wife and I are planning actually a trip out that way, so I might just be hitting you up. So it'll be nice to grab a drink or two.
Hit me up. We'll get you some barbecue and talk about all. We'll talk about Canadian Memphis real estate because we got something in common. Crackheads. We got crackheads in Memphis. We got crackheads in Canada.
Yeah.
Folks, again, thanks for watching the Real Estate Pros podcast. Do all the things: like, subscribe, comment, give us a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.